There was once a peaceful town full of lively folk and led by a hardened sheriff. However, these lands are no safe haven for survivors, with water being scarce due to a ridiculously hot climate and inhabited by the deadliest of creatures, which for the most part left the people alone. It wasn't until that one fateful day where those creatures sealed their fate. Deathworms sprung out of the ground and ravaged the entire town, forcing the townsfolk to evacuate in fear of their lives, leaving only the poor sheriff behind, intent on rebuilding his town and fortifying its defenses in fear of another impending Deathworm attack. The sheriff has sought my help and united 19 of the finest outlaws to begin this campaign. I have 100 days to prepare myself. Will I survive or will I meet my doom? Let's find out. After brushing off the sand, I prepared myself for the dangerous journey ahead. Realization hit me hard when it felt like I had been stuck in the oven and roasted up for a Sunday lunch. But on a positive note, a water jug bug was nearby, where I was able to suck some of that sweet H2O right from its butt, only to be met with the bane of my existence. Speaking of my existence, this is the perfect time to introduce you to the way this 100 days will work, as there are restrictions and a core mod that massively affects gameplay. Engrams are totally locked. The only way to unlock them is via coins, which is where the coin mod comes in. Coins are everything in this playthrough. No coins means no engrams. There are many ways to earn coins through either completing quests from the quest board or interactions and trading with other players. At the beginning of each week, I can visit the post office to pick up a delivery of 6 quest tokens and 1 dino dip token. The dino token is used at the dino dip box, where I will receive a random roll of only 4 dino taming licenses, which are the only dinos I can tame that week. I cannot tame anything I do not own a license for, however I can trade with players in acquiring a neutered creature without needing a license for it. And of course the rolls are catered to progression, with the first week only offering starter creatures. So for example, I am not going to roll a wyvern probably until the later stages of the game. With all that being said, I'm out here stranded alone, naked and afraid. The word on the street is that upon reaching town, there will be a stables with a trusty steed awaiting me, which will give me my starter pack for week 1, which means I have to reach it butt naked with nothing but my wits to help me. Plus I have absolutely no idea where to find it. So without further ado, let's dive straight into thriving and surviving. Oh, what the hell? Oh my days! My nightmare soon turned into a dream when I came across the most beautiful jerboa I had ever seen. But of course my dreams were crushed, knowing I couldn't tame it. Yet. On my travels was the first time I witnessed baby jerboas in the wild. Oh, look at these cute little guys. I wanted to take them all home, but I have to remind myself that I'd be breaking the law. Shortly after, I fell into a giant crack, where even my giraffe-like legs were not enough to aid me in escape. It's a good thing they added the suicide by specimen implant option, otherwise I'd be stuffed. It's evident that I was not doing much thriving and surviving out here, after falling victim to the treacherous wildlife over and over and over again, and perishing to the heat. It was clear I was reliving the nightmare that is the early game of Scorched Earth. However, I was pleasantly surprised when I decided to spawn at a random location in the north. I actually spawned right outside of town. The sheriff's office. I headed inside to find someone already in jail. This wasn't exactly the warm welcome I was looking for. While checking out the beautiful architecture, I was ruthlessly attacked by a stinky peggo. I never thought I'd see myself running away from a peggo, but a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do to survive out here. I headed into the stables, making myself a new friend in the form of Cinnamon Barrel. You, my boy, will be going on an adventure. Here we go, 100 coins, an Equus license, a mailbox, and some quest tokens. We're definitely going up in the world. I then spotted signs of human life. Howdy, partner. It was Deputy Charlie. We had a quick chinwag. She showed me how to use the dino dip. I grabbed myself a token and crossed my fingers. I rolled a raptor, Morellatops, jerboa, and a stinky peggo. Of course I did. And I could tell you I definitely won't be taming a peggo. Nightfall was now upon me. I was thinking about heading out until we got ambushed right outside the sheriff's office. I tried to help the deputy. Charlie, help me! But poor Cinnamon Barrel got knocked out, and I didn't think twice about throwing away my life, throwing fists like Mike Tyson in the Jake Paul fight, which of course didn't do a lot of damage. Luckily, Deputy Charlie was there to save us both. I took Cinnamon Barrel back to the safety of the stables. Me and Cinnamon were not ready for this adventure just yet. Krabbytron had also arrived in town, so what better way to welcome her with some roasted terror birds straight onto the campfire, which concluded the first of many chaotic days out here in the wasteland. I was met with rain the following morning, so I felt like today was going to be a good day, beginning with unlocking some much needed engrams. I finally had the chance to check out the weekly quest, signing up to 2. One where I have to build an adobe structure with a roof on top to house a tamed jerboa, and the second where I will need to tame a mate boosted pair of level 100 plus Morellatops, fill them with water and bring them back to my base safe and sound. Now that I had engrams unlocked, I was able to craft up some of the basic tools and begin gathering resources. It appears the sheriff was sleeping on the job, passed out over his desk. What kind of sheriff behaves in this manner? Unlike the sheriff, I had work to do. I just needed one more thing before I set out on my journey, which was hide, which is normally quite an easy resource to gather. This would be a great time for a pegger to show itself to me. I was not this lucky. The only option for prey was the direwolf.
No, he's nearly dead!
Predator turned into prey pretty sharpish. After retrieving my gear, the heat was unbearable. I had no other choice but to take shelter in the sheriff's office. Man, this is rough. All I want to do is be on my way with Cinnamon Barrel. Well, I guess I'm staying here for the rest of the day. After the server restarted, I woke up with 100% heat stroke, even though I was inside and well protected from the heat, which totally makes sense. I decided I would strip down to my undies in front of the deputy. So I took my punishment like a champ. I made preparations for my bright future by crafting up some spare bows and a ton of arrows, finally deciding to tackle the dangers that lie ahead. I did, however, leave Cinnamon Barrel behind as I wasn't confident enough that he would survive, and I'm proud to announce I hunted a saber-toothed tiger for hide, which luckily got stuck on a rock and couldn't hit me at all, so I'll take that any day of the week. Now that I have bowlers, my chances of survival have tripled. I did get a little overconfident, positioning myself on the high ground out of reach.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Or at least that's what I thought. This Carno had different plans. Now I was back to square one. I made the decision of using Cinnamon Barrel to help me recover my gear, which I did manage to do. It wasn't long before we ran into danger. We were able to take out this terror bird by the skin of our teeth, but of course you never get a fair 1v1 in Scorched Earth, and a saber-tooth was looking to third party the fight, which he timed perfectly. I had no choice but to flee for my life. I'm sorry, Cinnamon Barrel. No! Oh man, I did not picture myself being stranded on the side of a cliff for the night, and that's me back in a never-ending death cycle. Day 4 begun with me building a tactical thatch platform off the side of a cliff to bait away the threats I had to deal with. Oh my gosh, that wasn't scary at all. It was actually working, so I wasn't complaining. I had to improvise and utilize my survival skills, as the only person getting me out of this situation was myself. I made it back to Cinnamon Barrel's death cache, where I retrieved my valuables. The temperature does really go from one extreme to the next. I decided to camp out and cook a little bit of meat, as I now had a decent amount from hunting. I figured I would spend all my coins right now so that I didn't have to worry about losing them in the future, because I'm smart like that. I made my way through the harsh wasteland in search for a base location, taking my time, avoiding dangers and dealing with any threats I knew I can beat. I finally came across a friendly creature, a cute little jerboa. I knew this was my time to shine, proceeding to beat it into submission and feeding it some tasty berries. Believe it or not, this is how we make friends in Ark. I finally had myself a friend, which I named Jerboa, of course. I came across a little island in this lake, and I figured this would be a perfect base spot. I can't ask for anything better than being surrounded by water, so I did not hesitate in clearing out the area, crafting up some structures, some storage boxes, a bed and a mailbox. I cannot emphasize enough how good it felt to finally get a base set up. The next day it dawned on me that I had set up my base in Capro City, which wasn't comforting in the slightest. Well, I had already committed to this spot. These pesky neighbors will never evict me. I split a load of raw meat to spoil, making it into narcotics, which I was able to craft up a load of tranks with. Things were finally looking up when I knocked out this 135 raptor right next to my base. A sandstorm was on its way, forcing me to take shelter in my base. The perfect time to warm up and get to know Jerboa a little better. My raptor tamed up and I named him Linford Christie. I am also proud to announce that I was able to find that beautiful jerboa that I spotted near the beginning of the playthrough. It was missing 100 levels, but it looks the same. While out here, we got ambushed by a level 100 raptor, which I also knocked out. My Jerboa tamed up, and it also had a baby, which I also can't say no to. Don't worry, son, we'll get you home. I named my baby Jerboa Jababy, and the other Kaya on forecast, which I was hoping I could give to Kaya later on. A 145 Jerboa wanted to be part of my crew, and I know I'm taming a lot of Jerboas, and my only excuse is man's got a quest to complete. I take my job very seriously. My new raptor tamed, and I named him Backup Boy, and my new Jerboa, which I named Daisy Me Chirpin. Me and my family were reunited. However, the scorching heat was my worst enemy, taking my life not once, but twice. I did manage to make it back home to safety, where I knitted myself some new threads. I can't be residing in a western world without looking the part now, can I? I took out Linford Christie in search of a Morellatops to tame, which didn't take long at all, and I was able to knock out this level 130. A sandstorm hit, and I decided to make the most of it by gathering resources, placing down a mortar and pestle, crafting up some clay, and making as many adobe structures as I could. The sandstorm ended, my Morellatops tamed up, which I named Morella Plops, then proceeded to burn to a crisp. I walked him back to the river for a quick drink, and he wouldn't leave. Come on, man, we gotta get you home. How much water do you need to drink? I finished up the day by placing down the structures I had made, which means I have completed my first quest. Lovely jubbly. I mean, the door's still thatched because I don't have enough coins to unlock the engram, but it still counts, right? Day 7, I wasted no time in making friends with this level 145 Jerboa, and I named her Heather Forecast. I spent the entire day killing raptors and Morellatops in hopes to find some half-decent levels. I did settle for one raptor, which wasn't the best level, but the more the merrier, I say. I began to eat my own words when I saw death messages popping up, having to sprint back to base as fast as I could, where me and Linford Christie got ambushed by this stinky capro. Believing this to be the culprit of the attack, I took out my anger and got my revenge. There was no sign of any of my creatures anywhere. Oh, my boys! How did one capro manage to take them both out? Just as I thought things were going my way, I was almost back to square one. I recovered my new raptor, naming him after Backup Boy. Rest in peace, my dude. The next day, we were on our way home when the Ark Gods presented me with this 145 Morellatops. The Ark Gods also presented me with an incoming sandstorm on cue. I figured it was best to wait out the storm before attempting to knock it out. It's a good thing I did because I ran out of tranks and had to finish it off with the old faithful boomerang. I carried out my mission of killing more Morellatops and raptors and finally came across a high-level raptor. I was still down to only the boomerang as a knockout tool, but I didn't let that stop me in tactically feeding it a jug bug and knocking it out. The heat, however, did stop me once again. It really is my worst enemy. Both tamed up, I named my raptor Backup Boy number 3 and Morella Flops. And back at base, I've begun mating the Jerboas. My baby Jerboas arrived in the morning and so did Sanix, where I traded over 10,000 fiber for a Morellatops saddle. If you are wondering, I got a bit coin happy and was almost out of coins, but he was kind enough to trade an alternative with me as I was super desperate right now. I didn't mess around in equipping the saddle and got right to work farming narcoberries and crafting up a ton of narcotics. I then found this beauty of a Morellatops. It was a level 100, it was male, and it was green. I couldn't say no, knowing this could be the opportunity to complete another quest. Linford and I went on a meat run and split up a load of it to craft more narcotics, while waiting around for the Morellatops to tame up, which he did, and I named him the Water Boy. This means that I officially have completed my second quest, once I fill the Water Boy with water. Today was the day that I finally plucked up the courage and headed to town. Linford Christie was a right trooper, and I wouldn't be able to do this without him. I handed him both of my quests, netting myself 400 gold coins. Surprise, surprise, a sandstorm hit once again, so I had no other option than to take shelter in the sheriff's office. While doing so, I went crazy unlocking those much needed engrams that I have been basically craving all week. I even decided to unlock this western themed pistol, because why not? I've already got the clothes. The only thing that was missing was a cool looking revolver. While chilling out on the sofa, I noticed more death messages popping up. My 2 new raptors had been killed. I really couldn't catch a break. I returned back to my base area and tamed up 2 level 80s and a level 105. I was honestly at the point where I didn't really care about their levels anymore. I mated all the females with Linford because at least he had good stats, and I probably know they're all gonna die soon enough anyway. Speaking of dying, it was time for me to bite the dust. Alright, calm down, that's enough of me for everyone. Wow, day 11 I logged into my door missing. Oh no, this can't be good. No, Linford Christie! He was my favourite raptor! I was beginning to regret my decision of building in Capro City. Plus they keep offline raiding me or attacking me when I'm nowhere near the base. I was feeling hard done by, to say the least. So you never guess what happens next. Yep, I tamed up another bunch of mediocre raptors. Luckily, one of my Morellatops was still going strong. I spent both days gathering resources, making clay and adobe structures. I have had enough of Capros taking advantage of me. I popped out some raptor babies where one took most of Linford's stats, which was awesome, so I had something to remember him by. I was able to finish up a raised platform above the lake. Hopefully this will keep my creatures safe when I'm not around. Things were once again going my way. I felt like this playthrough was so up and down. After searching for the majority of the day, I finally spotted a high-level male raptor. It was also accompanied by 2 little ones, which I also tamed and walked them back to my base. My raptor army was looking great again, and they should all be able to stay alive this time. I got around to furnishing my base with a preserving bin, smithy, refining forges, and popped out a few Morellatops babies. The one was green, so I couldn't miss out on the opportunity in naming it the Incredible Canteen. Today was the day that I head back to town. Props to Dave for the safe passage over the dangerous canyon. I met up with a handful of experienced survivors, which included my own son. It was time to take on a group quest. I was also out of coins once again, so I kinda need this. This is a treasure hunting quest. The sheriff's department has supplied us with a series of photos, one for each location. We need to find all 3 and bring it back safely. We decided to split into 3 teams, however there is no such thing as a simple meeting. While in the yard we got ambushed, where I was trying to aid Sanix's direwolf, but he didn't care for my help and saw me as a Scooby snack. The captain also got stuck under the floor in the office, where Deputy APP had to take apart the building to get him out, but we won't speak about that. We all then went our separate ways. Me and Duck were one team, we headed north, and got instantly distracted by this level 145 Sabertooth, which Duck had a taming license for. While slowly dying from the heat, I helped her fend off the nasty neighbours, and we were able to knock it out. While defending it from aggressors, I somehow killed Duck while stabbing this Carno in the face. So as far as first impressions go, I don't think Duck was too impressed with my excessively long reach with a pike.
Yeah.
Long story short, we did tame it and took it back to the safety of the sheriff's office. By this point, the other 2 teams had already found their treasure and were back at town. And there was me and Duck over here taming a Sabertooth. Now that is what I call a reward. We all agreed to head to the next location together, discovering a new city in the form of Microraptor City. Take a wild guess of who made friends with the inhabitants.
Oh, I'm dead.
That's right, me. I was able to regroup with the crew after a 10-mile jog down the road. Searching the area for quite a while, we found the ruins from the photo, and shortly after we finally discovered our treasure. The journey back to the sheriff's office was a little rough to say the least. It seemed like everyone split up and went their separate ways. Duck's poor wolf got killed. Me and my best female raptor were not going to leave her out to dry. This raptor was living up to the legend that is Linford Christie. We prevailed through our perilous journey and made it back to town to claim our 200 coins to see the day out. Week 1 had now come to a close, which means I'm back in town, boys, to claim my weekly care package from the post office. It's time to roll for more dinos. Drum roll, please. Alright, so I got the Terrorbird, Archaeopteryx, Palovia, and the Kangaroo Mite, which would have been an absolute shocker of a roll if I didn't get the Procoptodon, so I still considered myself pretty lucky. I checked out my new weekly quest and signed myself up. I will have to go get some water from a desert oasis and bring it back to the town's water tank before it leaks. We've had sightings of Deathworms, bring one down using only melee weapons, and bring the trophy back to the sheriff, which sounds impossible if you ask me, but I guess as the saying goes, strength in numbers, people, strength in numbers. On returning back to base, Fender was awaiting my arrival and had a proposal, trading 10 coins for a tamed moth. He was also kind enough to drop me some crystal, where I was able to finally make a spyglass, as I had no easy access to crystal. As you can see, my coin count was extremely low, and I had no restraint when it comes to spending coins. I happily obliged. It felt good to feel the wind in my hair once again. My fun was short-lived, however, when I was rudely interrupted. These capros just don't understand that I am the king of this city. Get out of here! Check me out doing a meta run on a moth. I never thought I'd see the day, but with a Jerboa at my side, I was able to carry a decent amount of metal from each trip, which I spent the rest of the day doing. The next day, Vino paid me a visit with another proposal that I could not turn down. He was after sweet veggie cakes. Luckily for me, I had found a couple in a supply drop just a few days ago. He gave me a kangaroo for these veggie cakes. This was a win-win for me, plus I didn't have to spend any more coins. Now that I had myself a roo, I decided I would carry out the solo quest. Head into Rampy's water well on the edge of the desert. I was able to fill up my water skins, bring them back to town, drop them into the water reservoir. Easy money, baby. That's 200 coins straight in my pocket. While I was here, I also gathered thousands of berries, completing a filler quest which brought my total earnings up to 300 coins, and now I felt like the richest man in the West. While I was here, I spotted a wild fender. He needed a ride back to his base, which was lucky for him as a sandstorm was on its way, and it was the least I could do for a good old friend. I was a little smarter with my coins when I returned back to base, as I knew what group quest was awaiting us. So I went full arsenal mode, unlocking a lot of gear which I wasted 200 coins on, so maybe I wasn't smart after all, but at least I'll be going into battle with metal armor. I also crafted up a weapons bench, some gear and armor, and a nice Colt pistol for myself. Finishing up the day meeting with the crew, we had a Deathworm to hunt on foot. Yeah, trust me, I'm not feeling confident about it either. The Deathworm hunt was ongoing through the night, and it didn't take long to find some action, as we got attacked by two at the same time. We did manage to kill one of them off, but Miss V's poor wolf got ambushed by a third Deathworm. We all rushed to help, but it was too late. After discussing our battle plan, it turns out that I was the only one that decided to unlock flak armor and a metal shield. I do get that the player with the most coins at the end of the season will win the entire thing, but who's having the most fun?
It's got flak.
All I know is I am having a right blast unlocking the best items in the game. I was not messing around. The crew were now relying on me to carry us through this fight, giving me the nickname of the Tank. It wasn't long before the bodies started flying, and let's be honest, I wasn't tanking. I returned back to base to craft up more flak armor for everyone. Rampy supplied us all with swords, and Kaya grabbed a Doedicurus to tank the Deathworm's attacks. We charged into battle for round 2, with swords and shields in our hands, metal armor protection to boost the morale of the team, repelling the force of the Deathworm while using bait and switch tactics, with Kaya taking most of the aggro on the Doedicurus. With persistence and many deaths, we were able to slay it. And there's nothing more celebratory than witnessing a wild Captain Fat Dog streaking through the desert.
I can't run any faster.
That's 300 more coins in the bag from that quest, and I should probably name my kangaroo. Dennis Hopper it is. The following day, I was hit with the realization that my base was full of gaping holes. It wasn't good for my mental health living in this state, so I got to work, farming resources, crafting up a load of adobe structures, and spent the entire day building up my base to a somewhat nice place to call home, ending the day by placing my first fabricator. Can't believe it's taken me almost 20 hours of gameplay time to place it down. I'm gonna have to blame it on me being a poor man and having no coins to spend. My base was looking beautiful, if I don't say so myself. Later on, spotting this level 120 male kangaroo. Crikey, what a beauty. I had to tame it as a backup, as I was using Dennis Hopper all day, every day, and then decided to chill out for the day by visiting the Red Obelisk. This is a great location for silica pearls, which I was in desperate need of. While jumping there through the air like I just don't care, it dawned on me that this heat was unbearable. I rushed to try and make a sleeping bag, as I knew death was imminent, and well, I got micro-raptored before I was able to gather hide for a sleeping bag. Time to fly back on my only flyer, where I was able to get my revenge. I was happy in knowing that this was the hide I needed for a sleeping bag. However, for some reason, I didn't get any hide from it at all. Panic set in. I had to resort to preying on an innocent jerboa. I was finally able to make a sleeping bag, but then, out of nowhere, the jerboa's family came back for revenge. And I can honestly say this is the first time I've ever been killed by a jerboa. Feels bad, man. On the plus point, I did respawn back and was able to make it to the obelisk. Really? Yeah, for that. This mission was far from a chilled one. I don't want to come back here ever again. I grabbed my silica pearls and made my way back home, where I was shortly made into a meal by a saber-toothed tiger. With no more sleeping bags available, I had to bring my new kangaroo to retrieve the crew. I did finally make it back home and finished off the day by gathering some organic polymer from Mantis, crafting up a much needed refrigerator, oil pump, and finished off with crafting a cryofridge and some cryopods in a nearby drop. Well, I'm relieved to see the back of day day 20. I placed down all my new shiny appliances and life was finally panning out. Kaya lent me her Doedicurus, Kay still needed to complete the Deathworm hunt quest, so I rode into battle like a boss and we got right to work. And this time it went so much smoother. Well, maybe not for Rampy at least. I will admit I do have a slight confession to make. I did accidentally kill the Deathworm with the Doedicurus, as I forgot it does damage when rolling. It was just super unlucky as it barely did any damage, but I couldn't bring myself to tell the others while we celebrated taking it down on foot. Of course, being as I already completed the quest, I do not receive any more coins. The following morning I finally got around to crafting a nanny and placing it down. What the hell is that thing? What happened to the nanny? Oh well, I don't care what it looks like. I started incubating the moth egg that Fender gave me, spent most of the day making clay for the rest of my base, and at nightfall I spotted a 150 kangaroo. Now this was a beauty, as I had been looking for this for days. I rushed in, placing billboards around it and quickly tranked it out. The dangerous wildlife was out on the prowl tonight. Little do they know, I now have myself a Winchester rifle. While waiting around I grabbed the oil from my pump, harvested some crystal for rare mushrooms. Later on, taming up my new roo. Also, remember that moth egg I was incubating earlier on? Well, I forgot about that and it died. So yeah, sad times. Day 23 was the day I finally had running water flowing through my base. A much needed upgrade. A flying roo came down from the heavens.
Bubblades, how's it going, man?
It was Ras and man was looking to trade. I gave him 2 generators for a roo named Vito, which was a female. So win-win for me. I guess he was probably trying to save his coins. And shortly after, Swabby came to visit, offering another deal I could not pass up. A tamed Doedicurus and 2 for solar saddles, which I cannot tame this week, but I will hopefully be able to tame later on. This trade did cost me 20 coins, but do I look disappointed in using coins? Hell no. I knew how vital a Doedicurus will be in helping me finish my base. Now I had a mating pair of high-level roos, and they did not mess around in getting comfortable with one another. I placed down the rest of my adobe structures, checked my mailbox to see Swabby had dropped off the saddles. Speaking of saddles, I did have to use more coins to unlock the Doedicurus saddle, which I probably could attempt to trade with someone. However, man cannot wait to finish his base. My baby roo hatched, and I named her Mary Hoppins. Now that I have a Doedicurus, I named it my go-to. Daisy me rollin'. And well, we did not mess around in harvesting sand and crafted thousands of clay. I felt like Swabby had just saved my life. My guy is so talented, he can ride a moth backwards. Yes, I was still using a moth and Jerboa to gather metal, unfortunately, so life was a bit of a struggle. And I basically spent the entire day flying back and forth to the metal spawns. Being as Kaya lived the other side of the map, it was pretty challenging to meet up, but she was able to visit and pick up the cute Jerboa that I named after her. Now my base really feels like a place I can call home. No more capros for me, I now own this city. And I did forget to mention Spoopy traded me this lovely fawny dragon for some Morellatops babies. Sometimes you do just forget to hit record. Day 26 was time for a new adventure. I got geared up and headed out on Mary Hoppins. And of course my plans were cut short due to an incoming sandstorm. It's probably a good thing I got delayed as Fender was in a spot of bother and ended up getting stuck inside his own oil vein and was in need of a knight in shining armor. I mean, I didn't exactly do anything other than admire him getting jiggy with it. But I did at least defend him from some aggressors. He gave me all of his stuff, killed himself to respawn and retrieve it back from me. There's my good deed done for the day. Now if you don't mind Fender, I'm going on a vacation. I'm tired of seeing all this coarse sand, it's time for some smooth sand out in the dunes. I mainly wanted to hunt deathworms to level up. I had no luck in finding any deathworms, however harvesting a ton of chitin and polymer comes in as second best. I did get into a little scuffle with a lightning wyvern, but it was no match for Mary Hoppins and my 2 Winchester rifles. While out here I grabbed some explorer notes for double XP, returned home putting that chitin to good use crafting a ton of cementing paste, which will give me a decent amount of XP. I'm not sure if you all noticed, but my entire arsenal of weaponry and gear is primitive. That's because the server was altered not to drop any items of any quality, and I am known as the loot goblin for a reason. I will always find a way to find high quality loot. So I was solely leveling up with the mission of being able to open one of these bad boys. I wasn't a high enough level to open it, but I will be when I find me some deathworms. And it's time, people, let's see what we get. Oh, high quality loot. Now that's what I'm talking about. I'll take that, thank you very much. Hunted some more Deathworms to make the most of my XP buff while dying to the heat. What has man gotta do to survive out here? Mary Hoppins was now looking a little worse for wear, so we headed home. Sideways. I passed by Rampy's base, seeing his door wide open. Showing my concern for his well-being, I made sure he was well fed with a nice stack of narco berries, gathered some sulfur, and ended the day meeting up with Kay and Dave, trading a refrigerator for a pump-action shotty from Kay and a vault for a chem bench from Dave, which is something I desperately needed. BEA Uleful. The next day begun with crafting a lot of flame arrows. I was hoping I could trade them later on. Duck then paid me a visit. She was after a generator and some lights, in return lending me her male high-level Jerboa, as I had mostly females and they were needing a man in the house to have some fun with. As I had so much organic polymer from the desert, I was able to put it to good use in crafting a bunch of cryopods from a drop, and popped out 2 baby Jerboas, but both were also female. Of course, I kept them both, because they're so cute. Speaking of babies, a new baby Roo was born and I named her Deliveroo. It was now time to put my nanny to good use. I decided to name my Jerboa, "Can I please have one male?" in hopes that the Ark gods will grant me my wish. I spent the rest of the night looting desert crates and carving me up some mantis for some tasty organic polymer. Week 3 was now upon me, which means I'm back at the post office receiving some gifts. Some very nice gifts. I am really hoping for a better roll this week. I desperately need some good creatures up in here. Alright, so we got the Mosschops, Hyenodon, Argentavis, Ankylosaurus, and of course the Phaseolus. Finally, some awesome creatures that I can make friends with. It's no secret that the Argy and the Anky are 2 of my favourite creatures in the world. Time to check out the weekly quests. I've seen those hyenas holding their own in a pack. Go tame some up and take them caving. Retrieve 2 artifacts without lifting a finger, letting the dogs do all the work. Now that is my kind of mission. Tame a level 100 plus Phaseolus and bring it back to protect the town. Quests are now in, and I did not mess around in beginning my hunt for some Argentavis. The pain of gathering metal on a moth is now over. I must have gotten very lucky as I found a max level relatively quickly, lured it into this bodge job of a trap, which I later tamed up. I was then informed that the desert loot crates were unintentionally dropping high quality loot, so I had to despawn all the loot I had farmed from them in the last few hours. The loot goblin was not happy. How can I live up to my name when I can't farm loot? I decided I would unlock the most expensive high-powered western rifle in the game, which did make me feel a little better. 80 gunpowder for 1 bullet. Wow, this better be good. Okay, who wants it? Boosh! Okay, that's pretty good damage. Not sure if it's worth the 80 gunpowder a bullet, but I felt like the most dangerous cowboy in the West right now. The day ended with a gem of a find, a 130 Anky, which I took back to the comfort of my base for an easy knockout. The next day, my Anky was tamed and my hunt for a high-level male Argentavis, hyena, or Ankylosaurus continued. I flew back and forth over the map, killing off every low-level Argentavis in sight, and had no luck in finding my prize. The killing spree was still going on, and I was finally rewarded with this beautiful pink high-level Argentavis. Sadly, it was female, but I can't say no. Of course, the sandstorm hits just as I'm about to trap it, but I wasn't having any of it. I would not let this sandstorm ruin my fun. I baited it in and tranked it out from the comfort of my tent, which I whipped straight out of my back pocket. I also found this very pretty hyena, so I carried it back to my base in hopes to make the taming process easier. Things were going pretty well. That was until Dave showed up, having no idea that it will begin to flee if a player gets too close. Dave. After that hiccup, I was finally able to tame it, and I named him Chuckles. My RG also tamed, which I cryoed up for later. And there it is, a male 145. I felt like I had just won the lottery. I was already taming a level 100 because that is how desperate I was to tame a decent level male. I could not care less about that one anymore. Of course, the Ark gods presented me with a sandstorm thinking it was going to slow me down. After a terrible spamming of structures, I managed to trap it and trank it out. My other one tamed, which I cried, would probably never see this poor guy ever again. I kidnapped another hyena from its family and tamed it up back at base. It was much easier to tame without Dave trying to give it a hug. And now I had one with good damage, but sadly it was a sausage fest up in here. I still needed a female for the fun to begin. I then retrieved my new tamed up RG. Kay popped over looking to trade. She gave me 100 grapples for a high level RG. I proposed that I will breed in some of my stats and give her a very good baby. That actually sounds really dodgy, but you know what I mean. She was more than happy to take a baby off my hands. At nightfall, I came across another high-level Anki, so I knocked it out at base and called it a night. The next morning, I had to settle for a level 80 female hyena. I couldn't take any more pain searching for these things. On the plus point, I was now able to pop out some baby Argies. They didn't take all the stats, but I named one my go-to, Steven Spielberg. It was now time to take on one of my quests. I figured I had enough grenades, which I had looted from supply drops during the past few weeks. Finding a level 100 for Solasuchus will be a challenge in itself. Not to mention this constant unbearable heat. This vulture then reminded me that I am in over my head. Thanks, mate. Now that desert drops had been fixed, I hadn't really paid too much attention to them. However, I was in the nearby vicinity, so it'd be rude not to take a sneak peek. Oof! Mastercraft ghillie boots. I guess they didn't fix the drops. I'm sure no one will bat an eyelid if I just cheekily wear these bad boys while I'm out here in the desert. This heat is literally killing me off and I just can't take it anymore. After running rings around the desert, killing off every low level in sight, I finally found a level 125. Little did I know the pain I was about to endure while attempting to knock this thing out. This creature had just released and I basically knew nothing about it, other than that you need to throw a grenade at it when it is burrowed, mount it and drive it into harvestable rocks to gain torpor and knock it out. And I almost had it knocked out, however I had driven into a high traffic area of deadly wildlife. And well, this was the end of the road for me. I got stuck in a never-ending death cycle, was almost out of grenades, almost out of sleeping bags, and to top it all off, I ended up losing the Solasuchus in the bush. I was battered and bruised and my confidence was shattered. And to add insult to injury, I had to walk halfway across the map back to my base, but at least my new Anki was tamed. I had come to the realization that my coin count was extremely low. I had one quest token left which I was hoping to save, however I desperately needed to unlock grenades. I checked out the filler quest in town and signed up to gather 1.5k crystal. I knew this was something I could easily achieve. I was accompanied with the perfect companion, Steven Spielberg. He could easily carry all the crystal for me. I brought it back to town and stored it safe and sound, collecting 100 coins for my efforts. Lovely jubbly. Back at base, the Argies were popping out like there was no tomorrow. I named one for K and it has the same colours of a YouTube channel, perfection. And I slaughtered the rest because they didn't take my stats. I was now able to unlock and begin crafting grenades. Found this level 120 male Anki, which was my first male, so I couldn't say no. Baby hyenas were also amassing inside my base. Now that I had a male and female Anki, I can mate them for some little ones. It was now time to re-attempt that dreaded quest once again. I decided to unlock ghillie armor, as I figured that being such a frequent desert dweller, it would be much easier to repair. I had devised a plan. After scouting one section of the desert, I marked as many salt locations as possible. After searching for a while, I came across a level 80, which I am hoping is a high enough level to complete the quest, as once tamed it will be much higher than level 100. If not, I could at least keep it for myself. I navigated through the salt waypoints while having Mary Hoppins on follow close by. The strategy was working a treat and I honestly couldn't believe how much easier it was. Considering I attempted this for 3 hours straight the other day, this one was out in just 10 minutes and I barely used any grenades. So I can proudly introduce you to Michael Douglas. Kindergarten was kicking off at base. I had me a baby Anki, which I named Hillary Flinton, and a few more RG babies which didn't take my stats, so you don't need to know what happens there. I am more than happy to announce that this was the first day I was finally able to enjoy gathering metal with my Anki and RG combo. Perfection is the only word that comes to mind when speaking of this dynamic duo. Sadly, the Fasola I tamed had to be level 100 in the wild to be able to fulfill the quest, so I spent days searching for one, and when I finally found one, it was level 145. I felt a little sad knowing that I wouldn't be able to keep it myself. However, I was kinda desperate for coins right now, so I had no other option. Luckily for me, Sanic said that I could lend her to him so that he can breed her with his male and will give me a baby from it, which was very kind of him. So I felt much better about taming this beast. I visited Sanix the next morning to lend him my Fasola. Oh, sorry mate, didn't see you all the way down there. Other than that, it was more of the same today, popping out RG babies, attempting to blend in those stats, while raising hyenas, killing time gathering metal with my favourite duo, and finishing up in the desert thinning out the population of deathworms. The more of these I can take out, the better. On the way back home, I was finally able to drop off K's RG. Hopefully I will have my own perfect RG very soon. In the morning, I grabbed my new baby for Solasuchus off Sanix. I was just here to get down to business, but he invited me into his bedroom. No idea what his motives were here, so I got out of there pretty sharpish. Oops, I think I broke his bones with that hefty throw. Now that I had my adult Fasolasuchus back, I decided to drop it off at the sheriff's office. Damn, these boys are beastly for gathering flint. And you know I love flint when I need 80 gunpowder to make 1 bullet. That's 200 tokens in the bag and time to go on a shopping spree. A whopping 60 coins to unlock. However, I have been desperate for the indie cooker for weeks now, and I didn't think twice about unlocking it. I now had medical brews for days. This heat will never kill me off ever again. I also did not waste any time in advertising my wares in the Monarchy Discord, selling cookers at an absolute steal of just 10 coins. I'm also proud to announce that I finally have a perfect mating pair of RGs, and I finally came up with a great name for my Fasola baby, which was Hallaberry. After witnessing Sanik's bedroom, I felt the need to build an upstairs and make a bedroom of my own. I can now sleep well at night. I was actually pretty surprised to find that my cooker business was flourishing. Rampy was my first customer.
Ah, naughty.
I was beginning to panic that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the demand of the market. So I headed up the mountain to farm more metal. On returning to base, was able to craft up a few more industrial cookers. Chips was my next customer, also giving me 10 coins. Kaya followed, however she was after some hyenas, which I had been breeding, giving me 13 coins and a dung beetle, which I did not have a license for. I also chucked in a Winchester shotgun and some ammo because I'm nice like that. I took a page out of Sanix's book and invited Kaya into my bedroom where I was able to flex how long I am in comparison to my own bed. Miss V gave me 3 coins for 1 hyena. After a long, hard day of trading, I chilled out for the rest of the evening and rammed a load of poop into my new dung beetle. I can now begin to think about building myself a greenhouse. Day 45 was the day I finally bred an army fit for a quest, in the form of my hyena pack. I gave them some cool names like Chewbacca and Sherlock Bones, and they were ready for battle. Walking them all to the cave, however, was a different story, considering we have around 25 hyenas to escort across the desert. Our first destination was the grave of the tyrants.
Let's go!
A very fitting cave name, as we are about to send all those adversaries to their grave with the strength of the hyena numbers. I began to eat my own words when one of my boys was taken by the mesh, and most of the cave creatures ignored the dogs and were gunning straight for us. There were a few deaths, I will admit. Kaya also got knocked out, but have no fear, Bay is here to carry her away from danger. Don't worry, Kaya, I'll save you. Oh, wow. I was not expecting this. Wow. It was already hot enough in this cave. Now I'm sweating. After witnessing a view of the Twin Towers, I didn't get distracted for too long heading down deeper into the cave, where I shortly received a boulder to the back of the head, followed by a boulder to the face, which I headbutted away because I'm an absolute beast. The little hyenas were clearing house though. I honestly did not expect to see them take down a rubble golem so quickly. They were steamrolling this cave. I smell a red drop. I'll take that. Dave did also attempt to look in this red crate, but got ambushed by scorpions.
Bay, you're actually the worst.
Which he somehow blamed me for. I'm just doing loot goblin things over here. If you can't keep up, you're straight out of luck. We did make it through to the artifact while painfully navigating back through the cave with our entourage of hyenas on follow. Luckily, Dave was here to save us from the pain with the train. We got our crew on board and headed on to the next cave, the old tunnels. These tunnels are much wider than the previous cave, so it was much easier to navigate through with our army. I of course cannot turn down free resources from a dead rubble golem. Being over encumbered to the point where I cannot move was probably not the smartest decision I've ever had.
Just watch out, Bay! Bay, you got Bert's problems!
It did feel comforting knowing that Vino cared about my life so much. The main challenge was the giant drop that leads down to the artifact, which I had no idea how the rest of the crew retrieved the artifact, as I had to go AFK for the next 10 minutes due to an emergency rush to the toilet, which is probably something you don't want to know about. We made it out successfully, however I had lost a few hyenas in this cave and also 2 or 3 to the mesh in the previous cave. Typical Ark, eh? I felt a little sad that I wasn't able to celebrate my coins and our victory with the whole army. They were right troopers and I'm super proud of them all. The next day I returned to the old tunnels as I just cannot leave a fellow dog behind. Knowing my boys were in here, I had to rescue them all. However, this time I can use my weapons, and I was not messing around. I brought in all the heavy artillery. Nothing was safe from me in this cave. I was able to retrieve my long lost hyenas, quickly grab myself a cheeky artifact, and finish the day with a chilled out metal run up the mountains. Day 49, my cooker business was still running smoothly, trading with Miss Verdams, September Duck, and Rasklark, but even with so many sales, I had just about made up the 60 coins I used to unlock it. It still feels like I'm reaping the benefits either way, and some outlaw decided to paint my house the same colour as a Battenberg cake. Blech. It looked absolutely revolting. Anyway, whenever there's bad news, there's always good news. And we had now entered week 4, which means it's post office time again. I came across Vino outside who was already attempting to sell me a queen bee before I even got to my tokens.
You want a beehive for 5 coins?
I will happily agree to that offer though. I do hate taming queen bees. Time to roll for dinos. Oh, finally, it's Wyvern week. I got a lightning wyvern, a giant queen bee, a megatherium, and a poison wyvern, and I'm really happy with that roll. The sheriff's department were now taking on deputy temps to enforce the law. I figured I would nominate myself as I rarely see any action my end of the sands anyway. I honestly just wanted to shoot a person with my big boy gun. That is all I wanted in life. Well, I better sign myself up to some quests. I've heard rumours about a special breed of wyverns spotted in the trench. Slay an alpha wyvern on foot and bring the trophy back to the sheriff's office. Well, this one should be interesting. It costs 4 tokens and is worth a whopping 400 coins, so I decided I would save my other 2 quest tokens for the following week. Now that the quests are in, I noticed that there was a jail outside of the sheriff's office. This is because the following day, Kaya and a few other outlaws had a little bit too much fun in the sheriff's office and blew holes in the ceiling and many of the walls. You wouldn't have been able to tell as the sheriff does not waste any time in repairing the town and enforcing the law. Anyway, I noticed I could sit on the toilet from outside of the jail, and one does question the need to test science in-game. This is just not possible, right? And yep, I locked myself in jail. I had to inform law enforcement of my innocence and that it was all a big misunderstanding. And luckily they were able to let me out within a few minutes. That was the last time I go anywhere near that jail. Back at base, Vino was awaiting my 5 coins in return for a beehive. Lovely jubbly. I then spent the rest of the day crafting greenhouse structures and preparing a nice spot for it. I went out to farm crystal and got right down to building the rest of my garage and greenhouse. For someone who sucks at building, I was quite impressed with the overall look of my base. It has been the perfect Wild West base for me, considering we went from Capro City to where we are today. I did not mess around in heading straight for the Wyvern Trench. I did, however, spot this megatherium while heading that way. It was completely stuck and a level 145, so I took full advantage of the situation and knocked him out. Slapped a load of prime meat inside his inventory and continued on with my journey with my Argentavis. It was a little bit roasty toasty out here because fire wyverns were able to burn me off the back of my RG, which did not fill me with confidence at all. So let's just say I was a little bit cautious about fighting wyverns. But I was able to overcome the dangers and come away with a good amount of wyvern eggs. I headed home to pick up my freshly tamed megatherium, mated the RGs for more eggs, began incubating my wyvern eggs, and while waiting around I made good use of my time by gathering resources and crafting up a load of large crop plots for my greenhouse. By the end of the day I had my beehive placed down and I was finally in business. I can now create all those fine dining recipes in my kitchen. Day 55 began with, surprise surprise, another metal run in my pants. My wyverns were now popping out. I named the lightning wyvern Shock Lesnar, another Cheeks, because it's cheeks, and the third wyvern got weight, mate. I always loved to have myself a wyvern pumped fully in weight for utility purposes. I then grabbed some explorer notes for that tasty XP buff and showed the rest of the bad leveled wyverns that I don't take kindly to low level wyverns. While I was here, I may as well craft up another industrial cooker, although I do believe my cooker business is about to go out of business. It was now time to hunt some milk for my baby wyverns. So of course, in classic Bay fashion, I need to unlock the coolest western themed rifle and tranks to go with it. I was actually really excited to test out my new rifle. I had the perfect strategy lined up. Being as wyverns in ASA don't tend to torpor flee anymore, I ran rings around them on Mary Hoppins to inflict torpor with my gun. I pummeled this thing with 80% of my tranks and my rifle broke. I was unimpressed to say the least. I should have just unlocked the old faithful long neck and tranks. So yeah, I ended up killing this one in frustration with an actual decent western weapon. It of course didn't make me feel any better, as I was basically out here stranded, still needing wyvern milk. Krabby was kind enough to meet me and help me out, as she was also in need of some wyvern milk. Shortly after, I was fearing for my life when me and Mary Hoppins were gobbled up by the Ark gods.
No, you're in the pillar!
Luckily, they released me from their grasp, and we lived to see another day. We were really struggling to find any females out here to milk. I decided to take a dive into the bottom of the wyvern trench, which definitely wasn't the smartest of decisions. Luckily, Ras was in the area to lend me a helping hand and pick me up. While chilling our baked beans, we got ambushed by a flock of vultures. Krabby got munched almost instantly, and she was now down to her undies with little to no protection. I saved her RG and gave her some med brews. Being as I had nothing to help out Krabby with, I decided I would leave all my gear on Mary Hoppins and have a fist fight with a dung beetle, where I proceeded to get triple teamed into submission. I respawned back at base, grabbed a generator, cryopods, and a cryo fridge so I could throw out my creatures in the desert. However, my game decided it wanted to crash mid-flight. Sweet. It's a good thing I have legs made of steel. Ark was really trying to kill me off today, and I won't have any of it. I returned to the desert, placed down my fridge, and resumed the hunt for a female wyvern. We did find one and used Kaya's trap, as we figured we may as well make life easier for ourselves.
I'm dead.
We both ended up getting insta-killed by homing poison rockets.
Oh no!
But after streaking across the desert, I was able to regroup with Krabby, where we finally were able to snatch our prize. The pain was finally over, and I am fully blaming this experience on that terrible Western rifle. If I had a rifle that actually worked, this could have all been avoided. Remember when I said I was worried about my cooker business going out of business? Well, I was far from wrong. Krabbytron was my next customer. I traded 2 water tanks, an intake, and a cooker
Here's that Rex license you wanted.
for a Rex taming license, which was a steal of a deal, as I was hoping to run the boss fight, and I preferred taming Rexes over breeding wyverns for it. Speaking of wyverns, it was time to grab a few more fertilized eggs from the trench. I found a 135 and a 140 egg, which was good enough for me. For now. I spent the next 2 days killing Rexes and Megatheriums. I finally did find this max level beauty of a Rex, which I knocked out and later tamed up. Also later on, finding a 135 to knock out. One did come out with 8,800 health, which is pretty decent. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Day 61 begun with this beautiful hatching of this pink RG, which I named Roger Burtock, and I began incubating all those new wyvern eggs with the D+ hatchery, which by the way I didn't even know incubated my eggs for me until now. I'm just a vanilla player for life. Please don't judge me. I flew out on Got Weight Mate, stacked full of resources, and was able to craft up a lot of cryopods. I definitely need a lot of these for the army I plan to amass. There is a war brewing between mankind and the Deathworms. It is imperative that I'm ready for this fight, which is why I spent most of the day thinning out the population of low-level Megatheriums and Rexes. Rex babies were now popping out left, right, and center. I was at least going to try and combine the high health and stamina stats, which means the rest of the babies receive a good dose of shotgun surgery, and you can have some too. I did, however, pop out some beautiful wyverns, which were good for names, naming the lightning wyvern for Do You Want More, Greenie, because he's green, and the third a lesson in biology. It's time to do something about this Battenberg base of mine. I just can't stand it anymore. I crafted up 66 pieces of soap and began cleaning up the mess. It wasn't even half finished and I ran out of soap. I guess I can stand it after all, as I can't be bothered to make any more soap. Swabby then paid me a visit, brightening up my day, asking about my Rexes. He had a very high base damage stat, and once again my cooker business was putting in the work. I gave him a cooker in return for a fertilized Rex egg with the godly damage stat, which he will drop off at a later date. I then spent the rest of the day hunting down this Titanosaur for all those XP gains. Day 63 was the perfect day for showcasing my strategy in gathering wyvern milk. After killing a few males off, I had acquired my target. With a long neck rifle in hand and regular tranks equipped, yes, a primitive long neck rifle, none of that western malarkey, I was able to easily bring this girl down while running rings around her in the open desert with Mary Hoppins. Boosh! Give me that wyvern milk. I was able to feed all my babies with that, and when I got back to base I felt the need to paint my clothes and weapons. There's no safer feeling than being protected by a golden shield. And the day ended with a spot of trading with Spoopy, who was after another cooker. That's a few more coins in the bag, and I'm proud to announce that I did make a hefty profit over time with all these cooker sales. I'd consider that a win in my book. The more coins, the more goodies for me. The following day I met up with a crew of experienced survivors. We had ourselves 1,000 alpha wyvern to hunt on foot. The main issue is trying to get one to spawn in, and I hadn't seen many at all throughout my time exploring the trench. We did have a lot of us here to quickly kill off the wyverns and free up the spawns. I placed down a generator just in case, which I think impressed the captain.
Who's got generator and all that?
I always feel like I've achieved something great whenever the captain is impressed with my work. I also placed down a coffin which Duck was kind enough to give me. Cap then came out to announce that he has found the alpha and was baiting it toward us. Panic set in while I was crafting sleeping bags and frantically trying to place them down. The mission surprisingly went very smoothly. We did have all our wyverns parked out in the desert, so it caused a lot of confusion as to what target it wanted to focus. With all of us shooting at it while I had the big boy rifle in hand, it really didn't stand a chance, especially as it was only level 20. We flew back to the sheriff's office, which felt like the scene from Apocalypse Now. Dun, 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 dun. Dropped off the trophy to the sheriff and retrieved those 400 coins. It was now time for the old classic triple threat western face-off with shovels. In the blue corner we have Toast Bloke, in the red corner we have September Duck, and in the green corner we have Spoopy. The sound of my double barrel shotgun is the cue to kick things off. And we are off. Spoopy gives Duck a little love tap. Duck retaliates in a striking manner, while Toast sits in the back playing his cards right. Oof! Spoopy takes one to the chin, and she's out. It's a 1v1 for the win. Toast versus Duck. Who takes it?
Ow!
And Toast decides to take a nap instead. Duck finished him off with a spade to the face, and we have our winner.
It's so unfair.
Toast was not happy, but I was ecstatic that I finally got to shoot someone. What a way to end the day. Another day and another day of scouting creatures that I could add to my future army. I came across a 150 Rex, which I know I have a good Rex egg coming from Swalby, but I just can't say no to a max level standing right in front of me. Plus I have no idea how long Swalby will be in preparing the egg. I later came across a level 125 green Megatherium, which I took to the comfort of my own base for tranking. Don't worry, I tranked him outside until he was torpor fleeing. I ain't silly enough to stick a rampant Megatherium inside my base now, am I? The Rex tamed and the stats were pretty good. I was happy to call it quits on the Rex front. Sadly, I'm not quite there yet with the Megatheriums. I grabbed this level 140 in the wild, missing a perfect opportunity that was right in front of my doorstep. A ruin in the shape of a box made the perfect drop-in trap, and I knocked him out in peace. If you can call tranquilizing peaceful, by the end of the day both Megatheriums were tamed, so I threw them out back at base ready for breeding. It was time for me to pay Krabbytron a visit. She has some good poison wyverns and needed a male for mating, so I allowed a lesson in biology to go and have some fun with the girls. She gave me one fertilized egg in return, while Krabby also got her own egg from another one of her females. I was feeling the need to go on a shopping spree. I was, however, heavily contemplating this one, the gas mask, unlocking at a whopping 322 coins, which was pretty crazy. I'm doing it. Maybe people will want to buy a gas mask, as it is a great tool to own for pranking. That has gotta be worth 30 coins for my trouble. I did continue to breed up Rexes with my newest addition, while awaiting Swalby's fertilized egg. The more the merrier, I say. Finally, I got around to taking one of my Megatheriums to the desert. It felt great to reap the benefits of its harvesting capabilities, while also able to easily take out Deathworms for some extra level ups. I was tired of being thirsty all the time, so I decided to reward him with a cheeky teabag to the face, closing the day out with a spotter trade-in. Phoenix Mech came to visit, and he was looking to check out my wares. Looks like he's been saving his coins and hasn't unlocked a lot. Poor guy was still wearing primitive cloth armor, and I felt sorry for the guy. I gave him 4 Rex saddles, 2 compound bows, 2 stacks of metal arrows, an industrial cooker, a fabricator, cryo fridge, and a bunch of empty cryopods. I have no idea how this man has been living without any of these things. I gave him some cheeky discount, and he took it all off my hands for just 19 coins. Hopefully I played a part in making Phoenix's base a much better place to live. I then travelled over to Kaya's, trading 6 coins for a max level male lightning wyvern. Ras was running the alpha boss with his Fasola Sukas army. He invited me, Sanix and Kaya to join him. I wasn't ready for the boss fight myself. I figured, why not? What I couldn't figure out is why my game decided it wanted to crash over and over and over again. Right as Ras initiated the teleport sequence, I wasn't able to rejoin for another 15 minutes. And well, let's see how they did.
Defeated. There's no... It's done. It's done.
Oh, done.
I did feel pretty bad about the situation, as he unclaimed a mate pair for solas for me, and I just rock up, crash out, and don't even show up. Anyway, I threw out some boss baby Rexes to mature, while I head to Blue Ob Cave for some rare flowers. I then discovered a wild Ras and Sanix in here attempted to run the cave naked, and I do love me a good naked cave run, so I figured I would join in. This was also chaos for me, due to my game still crashing numerous times throughout. So I've got some nice eye candy for you from Ras Clark's perspective.
Dude, here he is, mate. How we doing? Here he is, mate. How we doing? Right, dude.
It makes my tummy hurt every time whenever I see that footage. That golem had the perfect angle on that high ground to smash my face in repeatedly. Long story short, we did retrieve the artifact and make it out. And I hadn't had enough yet. I reran half of the cave on Mary Hoppins so that I could make it to the glorious rare flower spot inside. And while I'm here, I'll take a bunch of rare mushrooms too. I will now be on my way. It was day 69 and I was feeling fine when Sanix popped over to trade. 4 for Solasuka saddles and a cooker for an industrial forge and a massive 2 coins. I was desperate for an upgrade to my baby forges, so I considered Sanix a lifesaver for this trade. Oh, look at that cute big forge. I had to move things around a little to make space for it. My crafting area was looking glorious. I spent most of these days alternating which Rexes I take out to the desert to hunt down some Deathworms, munching any babies I have no use for, anything that gives large amounts of XP, I was doing it. I did also spend a lot of time gathering resources, stone, flint, and metal up the mountain to craft bullets for all my weapons. I do believe I am now ready to take on the Manticore solo. Okay, so now it's time to meet up at the obelisk. Don't worry, I will still be running this boss solo, but when your mates are asking for companions to go into battle with, then it would be rude not to. I walked a few of my Rexes over to the obelisk to see how we'd fare this time. It was a mashup of creatures. We had wyverns for solas, a roo with Rampy inside the pouch,
We got knives, sharp sticks.
and my Rexes. It was a formidable army to say the least, and I am super proud to announce that I actually made it into the arena this time without crashing. Stick that in the world record book. Being as we did have so many wyverns, the Manticore wasn't inviting itself into my Rex's jaws. So I got a few cheeky shots in with the shotgun. Probably shot our own wyverns a few times, not gonna lie, but no one needs to see that footage. Our wyvern numbers were dropping rapidly, some going unconscious and others flat out getting killed. It did finally decide to land and my Rexes were in there like swimwear. And that was all she wrote.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Back at base, I placed a flag down to honour our fallen comrades. Following on from the success of day 75, it was the start of a new week and I was feeling lucky today. It's time to get myself down to the post office and grab my presents for the week. Looks like we have a free Oasisaur license this week. Things are already looking up. Right, here goes. Megalosaurus, Lystrosaurus, Aranio, Achatina, and of course, the Oasisaur. Did I just get arked? There's no way these creatures are a week 5 roll. Surely, this is the worst roll ever. I don't even want to tame any of those creatures. Alright, well, I guess I better sign up to some quests then. Group quest, of course, our favourite. It may not seem it, but wyverns are deeply loving creatures. Bond with yours by commanding it with whistles while you slay a titan. Oh, I do love a good challenge. You'll see them potato lizards, bottom of the food chain they are. Until now. Kill a level 50 plus Daedon with Lystros only. I mean, I kind of have to. It's the only creature I want to tame this week. It's no secret that I was not a happy bunny. More to the point, I can't believe I'm out here trying to find high-level Lystros. After searching for most of the day, I finally found a level 120 that wasn't getting attacked. I was quick to snatch and grab her up, take her back to base, where Steven Spielberg was able to lend me a helping hand by picking her up in his mouth. What an absolute lifesaver. And I gave her a very fitting name, closing out the day with a cheeky trade with Cobbs. Being as the business was slowly dying, yet still running, I had reduced my cooker price to 7 coins. You know what they say, every little helps. Another trade was on the horizon. Fender was in the area looking to buy a cooker for 2 mantis eggs. I happily obliged. I didn't really have much use for them, but I felt a bit bad as I could see him eyeing up my fancy cooker. I just couldn't say no to him. He then proposed a new offer. If I chuck in a refrigerator, an industrial grill, 2 volts and some lights, he'll give me a Uteranus taming license. And I was desperate for that license, so he didn't have to ask me twice. Fender has just single-handedly saved my week, so I spent the rest of the day sadly still searching for a high-level male listro, as I do still have a quest to complete. I killed a bunch of them, and finally came across a level 90 and 140 right next to each other, so I tamed them both and could now begin breeding them back at base. And it's safe to say that I'm glad I won't have to tame any more of these things. Swabby was also able to finally drop off that fertilized Rex egg for me, which means I can now breed the best Rexes possible. Day 78 I popped out many babies, 2 Mantis named Fight Club and the other Bantis. Listro and Rex babies were also coming along nicely, and the base was looking a little populated to say the least. The hunt for a Uteranus could now begin. I honestly looked everywhere for a decent level and ended up settling for this level 70. Everything was against me trying to tame this beast, the wildlife, the terrain, the elements, everything. And just to make life harder for myself, I could not be bothered to make a trap. So yeah, kind of have myself to blame for this one. I did prevail through it all and managed to knock it out. I chucked her some prime meat and went out in search for another, the opposite side of the map. I was lucky enough to find this level 125 male, which was surprisingly much easier due to this extremely strong tree, which kept him stuck in place for the majority of the knockout process. Can't complain about that. During this time I kept myself occupied with slaying some wyverns for their talons, but these fire wyverns were messing me up. I had to retreat back to my now tamed UTs. Luckily for me, the male was half decent. Having a strong bred Uteranus will be extremely valuable, allowing us to rally the troops more effectively when it comes to this rapidly approaching battle. The air was fresh, the heat was scorching, and the metal rocks were asking to be slapped with Hilary Flinton's tail. I, however, did not ask to be yeeted off a cliff by a thorny dragon. How dare you interrupt my morning routine? After taking care of those threats, I did regroup with my boys, and I felt like it was the perfect opportunity for some good flexing. I like to sometimes perform these mid-flight headstands during my morning routine. I find it very relaxing and therapeutic. My skills and balance have really improved over the course of my journey. Upon return to base, I began mating my new UTs and finished up the day crafting a load more cryopods at a nearby drop. It was time for a new and interesting experience. Many of the survivors had been rebuilding the town, adding new facilities and buildings, so today I figured I would attend the trial of Miss Verdams at the new courthouse, a structure Chips had built. So let's see what she's accused of and whether she's guilty or not guilty.
We are here because there's a lot of evidence that would show that the defendant, Miss V, is on the hook for quite a few crimes. Number 1 would be the murder of the town sheriff. Litany of things that kind of go along with that, including leading terrible dinosaurs into the town and causing all sorts of damage. Duck, how does your defendant plead?
My defendant would like to plead not guilty, and we would like to plead for manslaughter for the murder or the accidental murder of Sheriff Willie.
Just got interesting.
Well, you can call your first witness.
I would like to call my client, Miss Verdams.
On this particular fateful day, I was in the town and I was doing my best to try and clear up after the most recent Deathworm attack. I was doing my bit to be part of the community, and all of a sudden, a Carno starts chasing me, and I tried to seek sanctuary inside of the sheriff's house. And unfortunately, the Carno bit my butt, and I met a terrible fate. And upon being revived, I noticed that the Carno had made its way into the sheriff's office, and so I decided I must defend the sheriff and the office. So I managed to take out the Carno, but unfortunately, in the process of this, the Carno had also bitten the sheriff's butt, and the sheriff did die. But I plead not guilty to the murder of the sheriff. It was the Carno, and I was merely trying to save the sheriff myself.
I object! There's no claim from the Carno to back up these facts.
Okay, Mr. Clark, are you going to represent the town?
Can I just stop the court a minute to ask or to tell Captain Fat Dog that if he wishes, there are booster seats at the back.
I'm all good. I'm just watching the show.
I would like to apologize on behalf of the entire court. It was very rude to stop the case just for her to call you short. That was very, very, very disrespectful.
I am a little bit offended. I'm going to be honest.
Our apologies. There's nothing wrong with your height.
That is an attack on our people.
Objection, relevance. What has this got to do with the crimes currently being discussed?
Could you please put App in the... What is happening with App right now?
I'm just doing my squats. Sorry.
I'm calling myself to the stand since I was murdered. App, do you have any questions for me?
Did you or did you not die?
Yes,
by
I
this
died.
feat? Yes, please, could you explain why you are now alive, even though Miss Fadams killed you?
I'm not exactly sure how I'm alive, I'll be honest. I'm not sure how I have been reborn, but I have definitely died.
I would like to put to the court, we have submitted evidence showing Sheriff Willie sleeping on the job in his office. Therefore, how could he have seen the individual responsible for his murder?
Unfortunately for you, you do not know the secret of every man, especially older man who is a father. You see, I was not asleep, for I was simply resting my eyes.
Long story short, Miss Vadams and her party had enough evidence to prove that she did not in fact intentionally slay the sheriff while he was resting his eyes, finding her not guilty. And for the destruction of the sheriff's office, the jury found her guilty as charged, receiving many hours of community service as punishment. It wasn't long before a riot broke out, and me and Kaya had a cheeky little present to give everyone at the courthouse. I knew this gas mask would come in handy for something. Poor Kaya was knocked out among many others inside, and I don't even think anyone knew who it was, even though I was running around like a headless chicken with a gas grenade in hand. Probably because I'm very well known for being a law-abiding citizen. Have another in there while you're at it.
The spy! Still firing up!
Oh, they're on to me. They know. I did attempt to infiltrate the courthouse and extract Kaya, but I ended up picking up Miss V instead, and then took a shot to the back of the head. Right, that's time to leave. I'm out of here. Run, Forrest, run! In the early hours of the next morning, I was being invited by Vino to race chariots. 25 coins was the entry fee, and winner takes all. I was, however, a little busy right now picking up some big boy Exploring Oak buffs, as I had a Titanosaur to hunt. I figured I had enough time to kill it without keeping everyone waiting for too long. Although things did take a turn for the worst when the temperature out here turned into what felt like Ragnarok's murder snow. Yeah, I was out here freezing to death, and I hadn't killed the Titan yet. Shortly after, I froze to death mid-beam. I quickly returned on 4 Do You Want More to finish it off. Panic set in when I couldn't find any sign of my Jerboa anywhere. So I checked the tribe log and come to the realization that my own lightning wyvern massacred him off my shoulder when I died. No, Jerboa, my boy. So I made my way into town hoping the race will cheer me up a bit. So the Gallimimus were all spawned in, force tamed at level 1000 for this one, but that was to counter their excessively low health and add a good balance to the race. Also, I know you're jealous of my chariot building skills. Get a load of that bad boy. Even my chariot cart is jumping up and down with joy. And we're off. Or at least the others are off. I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. A chariot race sounds simple on paper, but one did not take into account how difficult it is to whistle a galley to move where you want it to go, especially on controller. I was absolutely shocking. It did seem like some of the others were also having difficulty guiding their galleys, so I felt a little comfort in knowing that. It's probably a good thing these galleys were level 1000. Mine is currently pinned in a corner getting smashed in by a gang of terror birds. We did manage to escape, and yeah, believe it or not, I did make it to the finish line in the end. I came in last place respectively, of course. Bet you didn't expect those results with that amazing driving.
But you can't keep the galley, they're like broken. They're repeat galleys.
I took really good care of it, and now you're just going to destroy it.
I'm off.
After the race, Toast Bloke was trying his luck in hopes that he could keep the level 1000 Gallimimus for himself. The deputy stood their ground with a flat no. However, while the level 1000 galleys lay dead in the town, Toast sneakily stole the death essence from one and was planning to revive it back at his base with his Oasisaur.
And I guess I'll see if we get away with it, right? I highly doubt we're going to get away with it.
It was now time to enforce the law and make a citizen's arrest. I teamed up with Deputy Charlie and Vino, who was also a temporary deputy like me. We stealthily scoped out Toast's base. He was definitely hiding something, and we all knew it. We just needed the evidence. We were moving up for a closer look. The captain then unexpectedly shows up, questioning Toast about the theft.
I've been sent after you, Toast. You're in big trouble.
But why? Why am I in big trouble?
You've stolen a Gallimimus soul. This is just what I've been told.
I do not have a Gallimimus soul. Right? I promise.
Yeah.
I might have took one for a joke, but I don't have one anymore. Why do I get blamed for everything?
Okay, I believe you.
We all kind of have no idea what's going on right now. Toast seemed to have swayed Cap's opinion, and they were now kind of on the same side. It was clarified which side Cap was on when he picked Vino and dropped him right on top of me while in my hiding spot. Shots were fired and a fight ensued.
Just fired. You told me to bring in Vino.
Vino did attempt the diplomatic approach.
He stole all the ghillie soul. Yeah, we're gonna search for it to search his inventory, but he's not coming out. Sheriff's Department here.
What's going on, Vino?
We've heard that you've done some illegal stuff and you've taken a OP ghillie soul and some sheriff's equipment, so we need to search your inventory.
But they weren't having any of it. I retreated to a hidden vantage point to back up Vino. The captain was on the roof, overlooking the situation with his high ground, and he looked like he was far from being diplomatic. Little does he know he currently has the most powerful, beastly, unstoppable Western rifle in the game pointed directly at him right this second.
What beard doing getting me?
Damn, it felt good to finally use this weapon on someone. I'm actually really impressed I hit that shot, to be honest. That was quite a good shot. Damn, this thing hits like a truck though. We then found the contraband inside Toast's house and confiscated it, with some shots to the face. Justice has now been served. I can now sleep well at night, knowing that I finally got a chance to shoot someone in the nostril with my nitro rifle. The following day, I met up with the crew. It was time for the group quest. We decided to pick wyverns with high weight, so that it could carry a number of survivors. Got Waitmate was up, as he had the most weight out of any other wyverns. We whistled our wyverns to move up high so they didn't feel the need to land, grappled to them to let the whistling commence. It was hilarious watching everyone bouncing up and down. We dangled, we got jiggy with it. We shot the Titan with everything we had. As always, Bay doesn't mess around and brings plenty to the party. I was repping 2 compound bows, 500 metal arrows, and some flame arrows. It was a good thing I did bring so much ammo, as many of the others ran out of ammo with their weapon of choice. After pounding it for what felt like hours, it was finally dead. 200 coins get in my back pocket. Back at base, my Lystra army was looking mighty fine. All I need now is to find a level 50 plus Daedon. The perfect victim. This thing doesn't know what it's getting itself into. Go, my little ones! Oh, they're pushing him around like a ragdoll. Oh, but the Daedon's hitting them pretty hard too. Oh, clearly not hard enough. He is down. The Lystros came out on top, of course, and so did topping up on 200 more coins back at the sheriff's office. Well, well, well. We have made it to the final week of the season. My last time setting foot in the post office to retrieve my care package for the week. Man, I'm getting a little emotional. I'm expecting a much better roll than last week. Come on. Okay, so we got an Onyx, Rock Elemental, Paraceratherium, and the Trudon. Not too bad, I guess, but it ain't exactly great either. But I'll take it over last week's roll any day of the week. Alright, quest time. Knock out a survivor only using a Titanoboa or a Trudon. Then give them a present when unconscious. Sounds fun and achievable, especially for a whopping 400 coin reward. Start a 30-minute timer at town. Return all artifacts to your mailbox in time. Restart if you exceed 30 minutes. And I do get to keep the artifacts if I do understand this quest correctly. Back at base. Wow, that's a lot of UT babies. Yeah, I didn't keep them all. I placed down a new generator and a bunch of ACs so that I could hatch wyvern eggs in my favorite natural trap. Suppose I better try and find some decent level Trudons. The search, as always, took up most of the day, and I ended up having to settle for a level 95, which wasn't great, but at least it was a female. Plus, it was a really nice color, so I must admit I don't think I've ever tamed a Trudon before. I did have a rough idea of what I need to do to tame it. Pop out baby wyverns, get them low on health, so that the Trudon can kill them to gain taming effectiveness. This Trudon was smarter than I anticipated, able to outsmart me by escaping my trap and giving me enough love taps to send me into a deep nap attack. I placed down a new wall to ensure it can escape and attempted to go in for round 3. Yes, I did get knocked out before that as well. I noticed that it was barely targeting the wyverns and was even ignoring them for the most part. After many trials and tribulations, I ended up having babies lying all over the place. The Trudon somehow escaped from my trap for the 3rd time or so, and I ended up taming it by standing on top of a cryosick baby, which I was finally able to kill. Damn, that thing was annoying to tame. I spent the rest of the day killing off Trudons and other creatures in the area to allow for more to respawn, while Fender was calling me back home to check my mailbox. Fender must have caught on to how desperate I was for a Phylocodia this week. I almost couldn't believe that he just gave me 2. What an absolute legend. I then popped out to load more wyvern babies and cried them up. After the amateur taming attempt of the last Trudon, I had learned from my mistakes. Throw out a baby so it is affected by cryosickness, lower its health, stand on top of it, and boosh. tame Trudon. This was only a level 35 male, but I was just practicing. I named it accordingly and went about my day in search for some actual decent levels. Later on, finally coming across the perfect Trudon at level 145. Picked him up, dropped him into my trap, throw out a wyvern baby, get it low on health, gain the interest of the Trudon. It easily took the bait. However, it does appear that I do need another to be able to tame such a high level. So I just rinsed and repeated the process and it was tamed. It isn't actually such a bad creature to tame after all, once you know how, of course. I named him Trudon that. Now that I had a good male, I spent most of the day taming a bunch of lower level females, mated them up and popped out a load of babies, which mostly took the stats of the male. So I was pretty happy with that and decided I wouldn't tame any more Trudons from here on out. Closing out the day gathering heaps of cactus sap and sand, as I had a lot of clay to make, as I have a perfect plan as to how I can complete the Trudon quest, and let's just say I had to make a lot of adobe structures for this task. I then headed out to the desert to find a secluded spot. By this point I had made hundreds of adobe structures, and it was time to turn my dream into a reality. Let me introduce you to Bay's Maze. The idea was to fill the maze with Trudons and see if the other Monarchs could navigate through it, making their way to the loot room at the end of the maze. The only rule really is that they cannot deliberately damage the structures inside or use photo mode to cheat, because where's the fun in that? I then placed down a vault in the loot room and filled it up with plenty of goodies, including coins, a worthy prize. I placed down some finishing touches to the maze, then headed out to prep for the cave quest. One of the cave entrances is too small to fit certain creatures into, so I placed down a foundation, generator and cryo fridge. This was so I could freely cryopod my creature in and out of the cave entrance. I had the perfect candidates ready and waiting for the task at hand. Phyla Durden and also Phyla Wren, ladies and gentlemen. I can't take on this mission without giving them both cool names now, can I? I flew to the church cave and dropped off Phyla Wren. I was now at the sheriff's office ready to begin. Can I run the 3 caves and retrieve all artifacts in 30 minutes? Let's find out. It really was the perfect quest for me, as I now own all the artifacts ready for the boss fight later on, and I didn't waste any time in flying back to town to retrieve my 200 coin reward. My Rex army was finally fully leveled, so I began throwing them out and lining them up, ready to march to the obelisk. Contestants begun showing up to run Bay's Maze. The contestants are allowed to respawn if they do die, and there are also loot crates I have placed down, allowing them to find more items to aid them on their journey. Inevitably, they will get to the end room, where they will find a nice surprise one way or another. We're just here to enjoy the show and watch the panic set in over and over and over again. If you haven't grabbed yourself some popcorn already, now's the time to do so. It was now time for Bay's Maze to take some names.
Oh no, what? I thought you were grappled. You're supposed to be grappled. Oh, there's so many of them. There's so many of them. Oh no. Ah, there's so many of them. You don't get it with that shotgun. Oh no! That's so mean! No! No! What have I become? I can't even kill it! I'm gonna die to a Jaboa! I've become the thing I hate most in the world!
Well, I'm already asleep. I ran through a tripwire. Ow! Thanks. Ow! See what's happening? Ow! Ow! Oh, good. I'm, Oh my god, man! Is that how you do it? Oh my god, it's all bad, May! I'm going down again! Stop it!
I'm like doing myself. Oh no! I can't. Oh no! Oh no! Not trap! Wasn't Jaboa? No, I feel bad about the Jaboa. No, careful, Jaboa. I don't want to do it. I don't want to kill the Jaboa. What? No! What the hell? What? What? There's a real boy. What are you doing here? Oh.
Bravey, you've got to totally get. No! No! Helmet off. So the pin code. Thank you for the round of applause. Thank you. Oh my goodness! Look at this loot. Excuse me. No. How dare? And Fender? They were not statues. Oh my god.
The shots aren't registering! There goes more of my armor! Spit more med brews! Oh, I'm sleeping. I believe in Snaggletooth. He's got mobility on his side. Oh, no. Snaggletooth! Literally Metal Gear levels of gameplay. Alright, my head is around the corner. Slowly, surely. Come on. Oh my god. I've done it. Okay. No! This is the worst thing in the world! The most horrific thing you've made me do in this maze bay. I was very smart. Oh, please do not corner me. Wait. Yes! The poor Lystros. My little potato friends. You know, when I signed up for this bay, I didn't expect Lystro violence. The pile of corpses grows. One more. I'm sorry, little one. Oh. All right, the pin code 1114. Yes. Oh, look at this. Oh, a compound bow, dude. That's huge. And the Wait, what? Wait, was that actual Fender? Was that actually just Fender?
All right, am I safe? I'm safe. Right, let's just stand here for a minute. No, I'm not. Balls! That's all! Piece of candy. We safe? There's something coming. Oh no! Oh! In fact, hang on. This is the vault. I can just enter the pin code. 1114. Hey! Oh, flap poles as well. Compound bow. Ooh. Okay. Ah! Why is this? What? Why is there a Dave shoot? What? That's what? Why is? What? What the hell?
It's just the end boss, right?
That was the end boss.
Oh!
Make sure you. Oh, she's linked. Oh my god! She might die straight away.
No! Oh, headshots. Yes. Oh, well, boosted.
And you're gonna hit this time. In the
Yes! No!
teabag, the disrespect!
Oh no, I'm asleep. I didn't even realize.
Oh, it's fun because I think I'm safe right here.
Throws through. Oh no. Oh, holy crap, that's some good loot! Oh. I was kind of unsure, like, that did look a little real, but I thought it was just, like, the mod.
It was finally time to march my army to the obelisk, joined with Fluffy the Uteranus, who I may have forgotten to introduce. He's a right beauty. This battle has been a long time coming, and it is time for the hardest alpha boss fight you've ever seen in Ark. I figured I may as well put some suspenseful and epic music along with it. At least this way it feels like we had a challenge on our hands. The Manticore had no chance against those Rexes and Fluffy. Ooh, Manticore trophies looking damn good at the front of my base. I finished up the day travelling to town where Vino had constructed a new bank. I put it to good use and handed in my coins for the end of the season. A massive 19 coins. Damn, I had me some fun this season. I can tell you that much for free. The next day begun with crafting a ton of cannonballs. Vino has sold me this parasaur for a few coins, hence why I only deposited 19 coins at the bank. Just joking, I had 25 coins before that anyway. I met up with a handful of experienced survivors in town. Look at how beautiful the town looks, by the way. I think it's safe to say we rebuilt the town and brought it back to its former glory. I didn't build any of the buildings, but I like to think I have been useful in other ways. Before we get down to business, it's time for a quick bit of fun in my mobile bedroom and a quick round of poker down at the saloon. So, the mission at hand. Tame a Titan with carts or platform saddles. We desperately needed the power of a Titan to stand a chance in the war against the Deathworms. After a long and painful trek to the opposite side of the desert, we had acquired our target. With many missed cannonball shots, running around in circles to find the perfect headshot angle, we had finally knocked it out. Out of nowhere, a giant Deathworm sprung out of the ground and slayed our freshly tamed Titan. Before we even had a chance to put a saddle on it, they moved south, proceeding to wipe out the community, leaving almost nothing left in their world. It was clear that they were not messing around, only having one objective: to completely wipe out humanity. The community were in shambles. They had no other option but to flee to the nearest obelisk and travel to our world. The only way to beat such a force is by uniting as one. After all that chaos, we still had time for one last bit of fun. The award ceremony was being held in town. Me and Fender were unfortunately on babysitting duty looking after Cap. Oh, look at that cute little face. There were many awards, from building awards to the best mutated creature color award and the best prank/troll, which is an award I won. I can't believe I actually won something. I was called up to do a celebratory speech. I don't know who designs these microphones, but they aren't made for someone of my size. Technical difficulties were aplenty, and I could not thank Fender enough, and all the competitors that took part in the Bays Maze. Fender was the mastermind behind the fake statues, which in turn were real people posing as an endgame boss to the maze. It was a genius idea, no one expected it, and it was a lot of fun for everyone. And in case you are wondering where I placed in regards to winning the season, I did not come last, which was a huge achievement in itself. I beat Dave by a whopping 2 coins, and that was only because I won an award, which gave me an extra 70 coins on top of the 19 that I deposited in the vault. I'm taking it as a win. Speaking of winners, long story short, Fender was the winner of the season with a massive 3,660 coins, which is crazy. So congratulations to him. That basically concludes the award ceremony. We now have bigger fish to fry, if that even makes sense. The next 2 days was spent prepping for the war ahead. Plenty of metal runs were had, and probably millions of hide runs too. I prepped a small fob in the desert, ideally somewhere we could use as a respawn point and a safe haven from the elements. I placed down a vault to store all the weapons, armor and ammo that I had amassed throughout the season, allowing the Monarchs to take anything that they need, and began throwing out a bunch of Rexes and anything else I had at the fob. High quality loot had now finally been enabled on the server, just so we stood more of a chance. It was a little too late for me to become the loot goblin. However, a community member was kind enough to give me a Rex saddle blueprint and some high quality weapons. I gave him sanctuary in my base in return for his kind gesture. It was the least I could do. I pretty much spent the entire 2 days farming hide and metal over and over again, while the community were also kind enough to supply hundreds of thousands of hide. I was able to give all my Rexes high quality saddles. Oh, they're looking good. I'm ready for battle. It was time for the final march, accompanied by Fluffy, of course. I already had an army waiting at the fob. This was my second army. Speaking of armies, I still had an army of Trudons left from Bays Maze. Farewell, Bays Maze. You gave us some beautiful memories. The Trudons ain't gonna do a lot, but how badass does that look? That's gotta be over 100 Trudons right there. I marched them over to the battlefield to await my command. By nightfall, I regrouped with the other Monarchs at the fob to make our final stand. Tomorrow, we face our greatest fears and will meet our destiny. We thought we had won the war, however this was far from over. There was no option but to leave this godforsaken desert. We have ourselves a train to catch. I will love you and leave you all with this cutscene. It's been a wild ride and I have thoroughly enjoyed editing and storytelling this Wild West journey from start to finish. Please do check out the other YouTubers that were a part of this awesome Monarchy collab. They are some amazing people and make the best Ark content you'll find on the internet. Links to their channels will be in the description of the video and in a pinned comment. And if you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave me a cheeky like, comment, share and subscribe for many more Ark videos to come. Hope you're all having a great weekend and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.